PlayStation, the base, right now, but it's the same process for the Thrustmaster TX for Xbox One as well. Basically, today we're going to take it apart and set it up so that it'll accept the wheel and still be detachable. We got to wire the wheel through the base today. So to get started, it's been a little bit since I did this, so we're going to trial and error. First, I was going to take that 2.5 inch or 2.5 metric Allen wrench from the last video. We're going to pull apart inside here, these Allen wrenches inside here. There's 4 of them. And pull these out first. Alright, now that those are all out, I believe this should pop out. Just be stuck in there, but okay. Slides out. We will be feeding the new wire from the steering wheel. It'll be behind this plug here, but it's going to go down the shaft. But for now, we need to might need to remove the plug right here to make this easier. Like I said, this is going to be kind of trial and error for me taking this apart because we've only done this once and can't remember. So let's give it a shot. Pull these 2 screws out right here. Remember, we're going to use these screws here. This is still going to be the same for the base. We're going to use those longer ones, the 2 other longer ones, and they're going to go right here to offset it because the wheel actually offsets these, and those screws go right here. That's how that plug goes into. So we're going to actually utilize those screws, and we're just going to drill one really small hole on each side, and then we're going to thread in those other screws, and it's going to be the same thing as the steering wheel on the back side. It's very hard to see back down in here. Then the very back side down there, the screws are going to poke through, and we're going to thread on the crimps after you trim them up. And that should work the same way as the steering wheel. But back to this for now. Kind of push on it to get it to come through. Might need to use that width. Come on. There it goes. I'm scuffing this thing all up. There we go. Okay. That's the other side of the plug. I don't really need to pull it out, but I'm just trying to make this easier to move things around. And this only goes on one way. There is a key. There's a key right here on top, and the same thing on the shaft. It's hard to see, but when you pull it apart, you will see it. Okay, so I believe next thing we need to really do is to pull out the face here, unscrew the face here, which is 4 screws. Same thing, Phillips, so I'm going to go ahead and pull those out. Right. Just slip off. Go off the side. Just gives you a little more access to it, and you'll have to actually take it off anyways to get to these. I do believe you have to take these off. Well, no, we're going to do it and figure it out, I guess. Here. Extra plugs here for something. Don't know what those are. Oh no. Alright, so basically we need to separate the case to see where you're running the wire through. Now here is a good time to really take pictures because this can get confusing on where all the plugs go because you have to unplug things to completely separate it. Anyways, let's get to it and see what else needs to be removed. I do believe not all these have to be removed, but I can't remember which ones need to be removed and which ones don't. So I guess it's just best to remove all of them and then we'll figure it out from there. But there's 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 off the side, 12, 13 in the back. I think I got that one, 14, 13 there. So I'm just going to remove all these, and then we'll see which ones actually need to be removed and which ones didn't. Alright, stop here. These ones I don't think need to be removed. They're actually holding the inserts for to thread this down to like your wheel stand. So these ones I don't think can be removed. They're moving around right now. You can kind of see it. I don't know if you can see that on the video or not. I'm moving around inside there. So if you tighten this one back down, it's not necessary to be removed. So I'm going to focus on the outside ones. These two I'm pretty sure need to be removed, and as well as these. So get back to it. Alright, we got most of them so far. There are different screws that hold this together. Like I said, pictures, take pictures, they'll help you out if you forget. There are different screws. So you can tell it looks like most all the outside ones, the ones that are all around the outside here, are these smaller coarse threaded screws. And then it looks like these guys here, it's closer so you can see. Looks like these guys here are actually the finer, thicker ones. So get these off this side so you don't lose them. Not positive yet, but it should separate now. But like I said, it's been a little while since I did this last, and I'm not positive what else I might need to separate. Yeah, looks like it's coming out. Alright, so basically you need to be able to get in here, and this is what's going to be hard to show because it doesn't separate completely unless you cut wires. I do believe they're a bunch of zip ties. You just need to separate enough just to see the wire when it feeds back through underneath it here. It's hard to see, I'm sorry. The shaft inside right here goes all the way through, so you'll just have to feed your wire back through there. So let's see if I can screwdriver here so you can see what I'm looking at. There's these wires back up in here that are hanging me out. It's hard to see it. When you get in there and you start pulling it apart, you're going to see what wires need to be unplugged. Take pictures, of course, again. Alright, that should give me a little bit more room to pull up on. Let's see, I'm going to feed it back through here. There we go. Alright, give me a little bit more room. There's one more plug right here on the side. Get that a little bit closer so you can see. And this plug's going to be in the way, it needs to come off. Okay. And then of course we got a bunch of wires in the back that are holding it on. These guys right here in the back, I would disconnect them gently when you pull these out so you don't pull the wire from the plug itself. Okay. Let's see what else is holding this up here. Two screws right here in the back. They're holding this whole back plug piece on. I believe that's what it's holding on. Pop those up. Phillips head screws real quick. Let's see if that actually releases it. Oh, okay, it's just a cap, so they slide in. And go like that. You know what? We might be better off plugging everything back in, and then just remove that plate only. That way you don't have to remember where those wires go to. And just slide in and out. And just kind of remember obviously where these two guys go. Okay. It's easier that way, I think. Okay. You'll have to leave this one unplugged unless you want to do the same. Actually, no, we're going to do the same again. You do both sides. Make it easy. I'll fight with it the whole time. I don't remember having to do this with my other one. I probably just trying to be fast and do it the lazy way, I guess. And just a cap pops off. This one's a little different setup, but maybe I'll just separate it like that. Maybe keep them off to the side separates it enough to do what you gotta do. Actually, it separates, yeah, completely separates it. We'll plug this guy back in. Okay. So, there's that. You can actually push off that bottom piece off to the side because we're not going to be using that right now. There's nothing to do with that right this second. We'll be hot gluing some wires to it, or you can tape it. I'm probably going to hot glue it because it worked good on the last one when I hot glued it. So, for now, spin this around. Move this guy. Give yourself some swag. Alright, got a steering wheel. It's just, like I said, it's just the steering wheel that goes to it. Thrustmaster, that add-on wheel will actually work. So I'm just going to take a look and see which way this actually needs to be. That part. Alright, I got it the right way. Okay, just double checking. It's better to double check than have to go back through and redo it again. So what we have to do here is we're going to do the same thing we did with the wheel. We're going to use crimps and the two other longer screws like I showed you in the last video. We're actually going to thread them in here, center them as much as possible off to the offsets right here. Center them as much as possible as you can right here. Because if you look, when you put this plug on the steering wheel, this actually will go opposite of the plug, so it'll be like this when it connects. So what you'll be doing when you put the other screws in, they'll make contact with the ones that we've already done, and those two right there, because that's where your connectors are connected to, the wire that goes to your button in the steering wheel already. So by doing this, you're going to put the two screws here, and those are going to be the contact points, so the wheel is still removable. That's the best way I've found so far. I mean, obviously, if you have something better, do it that way. So that's what we're going to work on today. Grab some drill bits. We're just going to drill little tiny pilot holes. You only want it probably half to 3/4 the thickness of your screw when you get a drill bit, and if not, get a drill, and I mean these should self-tap into it. I drill holes just to make it easier. Alright, got my drill bits. Push this off for a second. Looks like I'm probably gonna end up using my drill bit set, probably the smallest drill bit. Yeah, smallest drill bit should work. And really, it doesn't have to thread into this, it just needs to go through it, because the crimp, or the wire connector will actually thread onto the back of it and hold those tight enough. So I'm just doing this so it will thread in a little bit, makes it easier. Like I said, try to center it as much as possible inside there, because the more center it is, the more accurate it's going to be on the wheel when it makes a connection with those guys. Now you'll be able to see if those screws that you got will go all the way through. And since these are have that spacer in between here, it'd be better if these are completely threaded all the way through. But since it's like that, it's only going to thread up to that point, and then you just have to press it through. Like I said, the wire connector will hold it securely in there once you screw it together. Okay, since those are all the way in there now they do look like they're pretty centered. Like I said, with the wheel, I'll try to show this one more time. When you connect the wheel, try to get this orientated so up is right. Okay, before you put those, these are the ones that we just put in just now. See, these two would be offset. Now, we put these in here that are going to touch on these. That's what's contact. You do have to adjust these screws by unthreading them just a little bit to pull them up so they make contact when you put the wheel fully locked on. That is all adjustment. You're just going to have to do it until it works correctly. It took me a little bit. Once you get it set though, maybe take a little bit of dot of super glue and just super glue it so they don't go anywhere. Or you can get some type of little piece of rubber and put it behind it, a little rubber hose or something like that. But we'll continue on from here. get more wire, you can use the same speaker wire that we used first in the wheel itself. You're going to need, for this whole project, you're probably going to need, depending on your rig, your wheel setup that you have and how you're going to mount it, that all depends on how long wheel you're going to need. But for mine, I needed probably 5 foot total or so. But it's best to have, 10 foot, and you just cut it down, that way you always have extra. So, you can see the screws. It might be too dark to see. Just gonna get closer in there. Let's see if you can see the screws off inside there. I may not be able to see them. Grab a little light so you can see inside. Alright, flip this back over, shine some light in here. That way you can see the screws inside. See them in there? Maybe, maybe not. Alright. Anyways, they're in there. Okay, so back to the same thing. You're going to have to crimp. Best thing is to do is to just have a long thing of wire, a couple feet, because we are just going to crimp the crimps onto it first. We'll have to trim them up like we did in the last video. You have to trim them up quite a bit because they actually, I believe, you have to trim it so that it's flush inside. We may end up having to cut the screws down too a little bit. May end up using the old screws from the steering wheel. I can't remember. We're going to try this and see what works because these are from the steering wheel, so they're a little bit shorter. These might be the ones we use for here because I can't remember if I cut these down. I think when you press it onto here, it wants to touch. I'm not too sure. I guess we're just going to have to find out. It's touching here, so I think the crimps just have to be, yeah, that's what it is. The crimps have to be short enough where they don't touch here when you're inside here. You'll see there's a depth. Basically, it's this right here. From this lip up is how deep they can be. Or at least to the inside of the screw right there. I think it looks like you got about a little more than a 1/4 inch that they have to be. Okay, so we got the 2 crimps. We're just going to cut them down again. Make this easier, just get some small cutters, some small side dikes here. All that extra plastic off on both sides. And that little guy went flying. Now on these, like I said, these ones we might actually have to, after even cutting down these, we may have to cut them in half because there's not much room in that hub to have them as long as they were in the steering wheel. In the steering wheel, we were able just to take excess plastic away off of these, and they were perfect. This and the wheel hub right here, I'm not positive that's going to work. I'm pretty sure. Well, you know, they may work. They may not. I don't know. We'll figure it out when I get to it. But for now, we're going to crimp one of your wire leads onto it. It's way too long. I'm just going to trim it down a little bit. Okay. So, like I said, wire doesn't matter which way they go because it's just a little button that it goes to. So. try to crimp them as far back as you can, because you may have to cut some of this off right here. To do that, you're either going to have to take a grinder and just grind it down, or take a Dremel and cut it off. Depends on what kind of tools you have. Just going to slightly crimp just the edge of these right here, so they'll have a little bit more. It'll bite better on the back side of those screws. Okay, so this is what's the pain. I'm not going to be able to show you, but it's the same thing as the steering wheel. You're just going to thread it onto the back side of the screw. Unfortunately, maybe a second pair of hands for this, so and that's what I'm going to do. Alright, I'm going to give it a shot and try the other ones, the other screws. We pulled out of the steering wheel. I just think these might be too long. I can't remember. I think I did switch these up if I remember right. Okay. I do think I'm going to use the ones from the steering wheel, the original screws, because they're going to be short enough that we may not have to cut down the crimp, and that's going to be easiest for everyone out there that doesn't have something like a cut-off wheel of some sort, either a Dremel or a die grinder or whatever it may be, because if you use cutters to cut it, it's just going to crimp the crimp close, and then we'll have to start all over again. And I'm not positive that we still may end up having to cut this down an 1/8 inch or something, but I'm going to try to not have to do that, just for all you that don't have that kind of tool. So I'm just going to cut down, because I ruined that one crimp, so I'm just going to cut down another one and see if these screws will actually work. I'm hoping so. I'm hoping that the screws are short enough that we'll just be able to cut the excess plastic, excuse me, please, and then it'll work. Okay, let's give these other screws a shot. I'm actually hoping this is going to work better. I think in the other steering wheel, when I built my other one, I did use shorter ones. I think I found out the exact same thing I just ran into just now, which are they're too long. These are threaded completely. It might be better actually to try to cut the jacket all the way off of it in the first place, and then cut where the wire is going to go onto, cut an 1/8 inch off of that side, because you don't need much to crimp it to that, and then do the same thing on the other side, then short enough, or leave more room on the other side for the screw to thread into. But I'm going to give it a shot and see what works best, and I'll let you guys know. Be back in a minute. Okay, taking a closer look at it, I just retrimmed up just the edges off again. It looks like if we do one side only, if you put it in the back side here after you trim it up and slide it back down in here, it gives you the, you can see how tall it can only be. If you can see that up in there, it's basically that much too tall. Those corners right here, on both sides over here, all 4 corners here, that's the height of where it's hitting here. So that's that much too tall when it's all the way down. So you just need to take off just a little bit, and I would do that on the side, just one side only, and then that'll be the side that we crimp the wire down inside on that, and then it should work. Okay, so I just cut off just that much. I'm going to test it out and see if basically slide it back down in here, see if that's enough to hit clear. Which I'm hoping so. So it looks like it gives you just enough room. It gives you just enough room to thread and screw everything in. Yeah, that looks like it's going to be perfect. Alright, so I'm going to trim up the other side so it looks just like this. Be the same length. And if you want to, you can trim the plastic jacket all the way around this off. I'm going to leave it. This gives it a little bit more protection. Alright, so I cut these both off. They're both pretty much close to the same. One's a little longer than the other, but it's alright. Hopefully it's enough still just to barely crimp down. This means the wires don't have to be as long. I did it on one side only, just that way the screw has more biting, I guess you could put it that way. It has more to bite inside, and the wire only needs just a little bit, so we're going to go from there. Recrimp, or restrip some wires, and I'm only going to do about an 1/8 inch of wire out. That's it. I'm not going to do it very long this time. Strippers at. Okay. Stripped them just a little bit there. Not quite long. And then make sure you do it in the side, not the side that hasn't been cut, but the side that you did cut, because it's going to be, you'll see it's just barely going to go in. See it just enough. Actually, it was perfect. I'm going to use these cheaper crimps because the other ones I've been using are meant for more like industrial, and they give a more of a biting surface when you crimp down. These ones are pretty thin, so you can actually get closer to the edge there. And that's all I'm trying to do. I don't want to mess up the other side the screw is going into. Alright, that should be good. And it looks like I may trim up the jacket off there just because if it gets in the way I will, but I'm going to leave it just for now. I'm going to do the other side, and you can see the wire goes in there and it stops. It doesn't go any further than that. So sometimes you can twist it and it'll twist the wire up a little bit, makes it shorter and fits in there a little bit better, or you can just cut it, whatever works. Okay, just give it a little tug when you're done. Looks good. Those should both be short enough to thread in there without interfering on the hub. Just going to go ahead and thread them on the hub now, and I'll be back. Okay, so I came to the conclusion, and I guess it should have came to me sooner. These screws are just going to be too long, even the ones out of the steering wheel. It's too shallow for these screws. There's not very much plastic in here that this is going through. Yet again, probably an 1/8 inch or so of plastic. So if you take that off the screw, you only got where my fingernail is there, maybe a little bit more, and it's just too long. It's too long. It's bottoming out inside the crimp. The crimps are short enough if they can go all the way down. They will go all the way down, but this screw is just too long. So I'm gonna have to dig around in my RC shop, my RC box, and see if I can't find something shorter that'll work. That's similar enough to these screws. Once I find something, I'll show you to compare, so that way you can kind of judge on how far or how big you need to get. I'm gonna go dig around. I'll be back. Okay. Unfortunately, I didn't have any screws that are gonna work. This is the one out of the steering wheel, the factory one. Here's the longer one that I was showing you before, just to show the difference. But I didn't have anything that was gonna work, so I'm going to end up having to cut this down to make it shorter. I didn't want to cut it, so I still had it, but it's just not gonna work. It's not in the cards today, so yeah, I'm just gonna cut it down and go from there, I guess. It's looking like it's going to be the best way to do it, so for me anyways. I mean, if you guys go get your screws because you don't have any laying around, you can obviously get the ones that are shorter, and I'll show you how short this is once I cut this down. Be back. Okay, so here's how short I cut it down. Just cut a little bit, a couple threads off of it. That should be long enough, or short enough I should say, to go all the way into the crimp and bottom out where it needs to be, so it's not sticking up too high. I'm going to cut the other one and go back and see if it'll fit into the base, or the hub and the base. I'm hoping so. Alright, so I have them cut. Hold these. It's smaller. Got them cut pretty much identical length. going to see if they'll thread back into the base now and give me enough clearance. And if these work, you're going to need, I'd say these are probably between 3 and 5 millimeters in length, quarter inch or so. Going to thread those shortened screws back down into the plastic hub. And then we'll take the wire connector that's on the wire and see if it's going to give me what I need. I'm hoping so. It looks like it's pretty short inside there. So I'm just going to go ahead and test this out and see if it works, and I'll come back. Okay guys, so that's threaded down all the way in there. Hopefully you can see it in there. It is just shorter than where it's going to sit on the metal hub on the base itself. So I'm going to do the other one, and then we can start reassembling this thing, or feeding the wire back through. We'll have to feed the hub, or feed the wire back through the hub and pull it out through the back side of the base. And I'm going to made it easier to thread that on there, just to cut off the rest of the plastic. It was getting in the way and it was sliding around, so it's just going to be easier just to cut it all the way off. That way you're not messing with it. That one's threaded down, and it looks like I have the same clearance, so it looks good. So what we're going to do from here is take your length of wire that you already have attached to it, obviously, and I probably got 3 foot here, but I'll cut it down. Make sure they're good and tight together so they're not catching on anything as it goes down. And you're going to want to pull this out because it's like old phone cord where you can see how it twists together and it connects together so it stretches. It'll be in the way if you don't pull on it. Just dropping the wire here. Get it all the way back in there as far as you can see, because it's going to stop on the other side. There's stuff in the way, you'll have to pull it through probably. Okay, so it looks like it's as far as it's going to go for me. And hold it there. Around, come back to the base. Pliers or screwdriver or something, just kind of grab it and pull it out. And I'm sorry, you guys probably can't see what I'm doing. Very little room back here. Alright, I got it, so I'm just going to pull it through. And you can see here on the back how they zip tied it all through here. You can go back through and make it come through the same way if you want to. That's entirely up to you. You just pull it all the way through for now. That way you can put it back together. And the same thing with this hub. It only goes on one way. Goes on one way. There's a keyway here, and then the groove. Shove that wire in there, and you have to pull some more through as you go. That's what you're going to want to do, is pull it so there's not much slack. You want to have a little bit of slack, and you don't want it to be super loose either. Okay, so basically we're at the point where I'm going to take these Allens that we pulled out of the hub and just put it back together. I don't think there's any other reason for us to leave it out yet, so I'm just going to put those together and I'll speed it up, get through it a little bit quicker. string that goes around here. Pull this hub out a little bit, angle it around that screw that locks it to locks your steering wheel from spinning. And then line it up. I don't think there's any keywords or anything that actually. No, there's not. So you're just gonna kind of have to line it up the best you can, and okay, that plate's attached now. Go back to the back here, and we're gonna reassemble it now. There you go. Okay. Don't forget this guy's gonna end up going back through the base. So here is the wire from what we just did. And now pull it out of the way. Get the bottom of the base. And you're going to want to look and see the best route to route that out to the back. Okay, here is the LED connector that I put in the description you get from Amazon. I think eBay even has them. They call it an LED jumper, but it's just a 2-pin connector. One's going to be for the base, and one's going to be connected to the momentary button switch for your handbrake. Doesn't matter which way you want to do this. So we're going to get that in just 1 second. We need to put this kind of back together a little bit to see where we're going to be at. May end up just disconnecting those anyways. Yeah, we're going to disconnect them. One doesn't get disconnected, it's got like a ground or something that's going to the board. Okay, so we're just putting this all back together. Where are those screws at? There. Okay. Just going to put all those connectors back together, leave them disconnected from the board so you still have the extra room. And don't, take pictures, like I said, take pictures seeing what you're doing. It doesn't look like they go in. They can only go in one way as far as where they go. But anyways, I'm doing this, putting this back together so I can show you exactly what we're going to be doing. Now that's all back together, you're going to take your jumper wire here. Like I said, it doesn't matter which one you go with first. These are keyed, so they only go in one way. Push together. It's watertight, so they're supposed to be waterproof or water resistant. So just get it on there. So what I did is I left on my other base, the one with the nut I left on the outside that's going to go to your handbrake, and this is the guy that's going to go into the base here. Now you may trim this down, it's up to you. I figured out exactly how I want to do it. Like it anyways. Stop leaving this disconnected. Let's see if I have enough room. So we're gonna basically, you got a couple empty silicon slots here. We're gonna drill through this middle one, just big enough for this. And that way it's gonna go through, and you're gonna give yourself a leadway about that much, 2-3 inches. 3 or 4 inches actually be better. and then we'll hot glue it inside here so it doesn't move anywhere, and hot glue it out of the way. And once that's done, it'll just be a little pigtail that hangs out the back of it, and it looks pretty good. It looks almost like factory. So do that. I'm going to drill through this. I'm not too sure what size drill bit it is. Just going to have to probably do a couple different drill bits, but obviously you're going to go small, work your way up to a little bigger so you can do it straight. I'll go through it and figure it out, and I'll let you know, and then we'll go from there. Alright, so I drilled mine a little big. Not a big deal. I would have liked to have been a little bit cleaner like my other one. Looks like maybe a 15/64 bit or a 1/4 inch bit would probably be best. I went a little big, so it's still going to look alright. I mean, you got a little bit of gap in between play here, but I'm going to hot glue it in the inside here, and it'll be alright. I don't really use this base too much, so. And what we're going to do is end up cutting this. You can see that. Cut your lead that we put through the base, and just you can solder it or crimp it. I'm probably going to solder these together and put some heat shrink tube over it, and then it should look pretty clean. But yeah, let's keep going on that. You know, actually, we're going to take these back off again, because I don't have room to get in there. This base is a little bit different as far as the wiring goes like that than the Xbox One version. So it's going to be easier. I'll have more room if I can just pull the side or pull the top completely off and look at it. Just do it step by step. Pop this off. Just leave it in there. Same thing with this side. You're definitely going to want this in here when you drill, though. It makes it easier when it doesn't move. Make sure you try to blow out all the shavings from when you drilled that. You don't want those shavings in there, really. Just get out of the way here. Alright, now that the top is free, we can actually just put this back in here. Don't worry about putting the wires back in there, you're just doing this for now. Push this back through. Give yourself, like I said, 2 or 3 inches here of slack. That way you can move it around once it's all said and done. And then 4. The wire that we put in there, you can give yourself a little bit of slack. There's nothing moving around on this side, it's all in the front. So wherever it's going to sit, that's how I would do it. Just cut it. I'm going to hot glue it down to the base, down the bottom here. Just somewhere around here. Hot glue, there's enough room down there. Get it out of the way. And I'm going to cut these, solder these 2 wires together and heat shrink them, and then I'll be back. Alright guys, so basically I went through and I just hot glued and soldered my wires together and just used a little bit of heat shrink tube. And like I said, I hot glued down here. I'll put some pictures in the video showing it a little bit better. So now we're just back to putting everything back together. Make sure all the plugs are plugged in so you don't have to come back through and do it again. This guy you have to get up there when it's closer to being together all the way. So going to put it all back together right now. Okay. Make sure all the plugs are plugged in good, snapped in. Press these guys back in. Put this cap back over it. And these just have these four. Well, if you don't remember, just have these four little screws here. Okay, remember this side, same thing. Alright, that buttons everything up inside. Just gonna double check, make sure everything's plugged in. That way we don't pull that apart later. There's one up front. Make sure that's plugged in. Everything looks good. Just make sure you line everything all up front. Sitting all good. Flip it over. And then basically, you just gotta put all those screws back in. Remember, all the way on the outside, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 in the back, 5, 6, and 7. It looks like of these short little guys. I think that's how many is here. 3, yep, 7 here. So just on the outside is a little coarse guys. Alright, and then there's 4 more total. You have these shorter ones here. Looks like they go in front here, yeah. They go from here. Those ones I'm not even sure needed to come out, but they are out. So. Okay, and then the last two are just the longer, coarser ones that go towards the back here. Okay, that's it. All buttoned up. Should be ready to go. And all you'll have is this hanging out, and then you'll have your other side of your plug here. That plugs into here, and this side will go to your button for your handbrake. So, I think that's it for this video. Third part will be basically showing that it works and going over the handbrake. I'm not going to get a new handbrake to show you guys, so I'll just go over mine. You guys can do whatever you want to do and how you want to set it up. That's it. Stay tuned for the next video, I guess. Thanks, guys.